Hey friends, we're off here again with the Louisville ProActivist Report. Thanks for joining me. Got a great interview lined up for you and a really busy next 2 days for you all. So we've got this interview now, 1 o'clock. Join me again. I'm going to have Ja'Cory Arthur on from the Metro Council. And then tomorrow, 2 o'clock, we'll be talking with Matt Luttrell. He is the Amazon organizer for Kentucky. He's going to be setting up the unions here in Kentucky for Amazon. So 3 big shows, really excited. I'm really excited about this show that we're about to do. We're talking community cats today. So let me bring on my guest here. And the many buttons it takes to do that. There we go. And I'm going to welcome to the show my guest today. I have here with me Karen Little from Alley Cat Advocates. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me on.
So we've got a lot of interesting things to talk about today. So let's just go back to the beginning. You know, you have a very amazing organization here. You do a lot of great work, and it's even nationally recognized. But something had to spark all this for you. So what is your love for cats, and how did you turn that into, doing all this great work that you do?
Sure. Well, thank you for the opportunity to answer that question. So I was basically a normal person in the 90s. I had 2 cats, my husband and myself, and I was a faculty member at the University of Louisville. And I was fortunate enough to live in Old Louisville where I could walk to work. And I kept finding stray cats on my walk to work and on my way back home from work. And in the 90s, what one typically did was find homes for those cats that you were finding on your walk to and from work. And so I found homes for many of the cats with work colleagues, friends, even family members who lived as far away as Kansas and Nebraska and Iowa. But then I started running out of such friends and family members. So it seemed to me that there was something else that should be done for all these cats that I was finding on my very short 10-minute walk to and from work. So my husband and I started traveling across the country to figure out what that was that communities were doing to help these cats that were wandering around outside. And so what we found that the animal welfare movement was doing in the 90s were 2 things. They were creating high volume spay-neuter clinics, because ultimately spaying and neutering the cats is going to reduce their numbers, and also trap, neuter, return, which is the process of trapping stray cats, neutering them, spaying or neutering, and then returning them back to their outside homes. Much healthier because they've not going to be reproducing, so they don't have those hormones and those drives associated with their livelihood. So at that time, my husband and I were both in professional positions, and we didn't really feel we could devote the resources for a high volume spay-neuter clinic. So we went the route of a trap, neuter, return organization that we felt at that time we could do as a volunteer situation. And indeed, there were a lot of people, I think we were in the right place at the right time, who were interested in doing the same type of work, because they too had noticed all the cats outside that really didn't have a good outlet. We couldn't adopt all of them into homes, and some didn't want to be in homes. And the people that were caring for them outside also didn't want them necessarily to be in homes. They were very happy to take care of them on their back porch if they had a little bit of support in the way of spay and neuter, and maybe food resources as well. So we started Alley Cat Advocates in 1999 and spent about a year working on the infrastructure, making sure we had a good solid logo, a good mission statement. Board governance was something we also worked on. And then we started doing surgeries in October of 2020. So that's really the impetus for the group, a volunteer effort until 2010 when we hired our first part-time person. So the community has really fallen behind us in this work. So while we might have had the vision and moved forward with that and took the reins, it's really not something that could have been done without tremendous support from across the community.
That's awesome. Like I said, you are gaining national recognition for what you do. I know the TNR movement has kind of spread nationwide, and it's kind of, I guess, the go-to strategy now for community cats. So do you have a lot of other groups like reach out to you on like how you do this work, or?
Yeah, I would say just about once a month, maybe twice a month, I'll have a group from outside the region, outside the state, reach out to us for information. And I'm very happy to talk with them about how we got started and then the challenges that we faced so that they don't have to recreate the wheel. Some of basically the process is going to be the same throughout all the country. And so I do absolutely support those other organizations who reach out for assistance.
Okay, so I want to ask you about something that you were involved in 2012, and that was the Return to Field program.
Right.
So can you tell us what that was about?
Sure. In 2010, Alley Cat Advocates and the city jointly got a very substantial grant from PetSmart Charities. It was $75,000, and it was to focus our trap, neuter, return efforts in the 40215 zip code primarily. And this grant from PetSmart Charities was intended to try to document and demonstrate that if one focused their trap, neuter, return efforts in a small geographic area, that they could absolutely affect change with regard to the number of cats that were needing assistance in that area. We chose 40215 because that was where the intake to the Metro Animal Services shelter here in Louisville was the highest. The largest number of stray cats in the community were coming from that zip code to the shelter.
What neighborhood is 421?
Sure, that's between Churchill Downs and Iroquois Park.
Okay.
So it's a transient neighborhood, very nice, most of it, and there were a lot of stray cats. And also that number was probably highest because that was the zip code where the shelter was. So transport to the shelter was not as an obstacle for people who found stray cats in that zip code. So our goal was to alter 2,000 cats over a 2-year period and to track those numbers coming from Metro Animal Services to see if there was a decline in the intake of stray cats from that zip code. And what we learned, even after just 8 months of that project and 800 cats that we had altered at that point, that we'd already reduced the intake of stray cats to Metro Animal Services by 51%. So basically, the case study was proven. And of course, PetSmart Charities was very pleased about that. But we were able to prove that if you focus your efforts and do trap, neuter, return, there are fewer cats that come into Metro Animal Services. Fortunately, at that time, we had an astute council person in the form of Marianne Butler, who was representing that district. And she also saw a drop in constituent calls complaining about stray cats. So she was immediately on board with working with us and legal counsel with the city, as well as, of course, Metro Animal Services, to refine the ordinance so that community cats were basically recognized as an entity. So we rewrote parts of the ordinance and presented them to Metro Council at the end of April 2020 so that community cats could be dealt with in a way different than pet cats. Pet cats need a license, and they also there's a leash law that applies to them. Owned cats need to stay on the owner's property. So that just doesn't work for community cats who may be eating at 4 or 5 different locations around the block. So in doing so, we were able to separate pet cats from community cats in the ordinance. And we took that proposal to Metro Council at the end of April 2020, and it was passed unanimously. So that set the groundwork for Metro Animal Services as an entity to start as early as June of 2020. When stray cats came into their facility, they were allowed to be spayed and neutered and returned back to their outdoor home. And that's when the kill rate, basically, the number of animals, cats in particular, that Metro Animal Services was euthanizing on a daily basis, sometimes 8 hours a day straight, a staff member would euthanize cats. Just because they weren't going to be adopted through traditional means. They didn't want to be in a cage. They didn't want to be inside. Those cats could now be saved by getting them spayed and neutered and vaccinated and then put back in their outside home. So that's return to field from a shelter standpoint. They were no longer compelled to kill those cats whose only outlet in the previous life of Metro Animal Services was the adoption floor. So there are some cats that do just fine back out in the neighborhood, spayed and neutered, vaccinated with people watching out for them. And so now they're no longer having to kill all the cats that come into the shelter.
That's awesome. Let's fast forward a little bit to 2020, and that's obviously a very big year for Alley Cat Advocates. That is the year the Community Cat Complex was formed. That's where we are now doing this interview. So how did that come about?
Sure. So Metro Animal Services and the city were building out a new shelter. They had been in one on Manslick Road since the 1960s, and it was pretty dilapidated and needed to be replaced. So they built an animal house in 2010, and then their new shelter they opened at the end of 2019. Well, in the process of reviewing what services were available in the community, it was pretty clear that Alley Cat Advocates was helping Metro Animal Services and the community in the work that we were doing, and that we really should formalize our partnership. We'd been working in partnership for over a decade, but we really needed to formalize that. So there was this building that was going not to be renovated by the city, but was going to sit empty on the campus where Animal House and their shelter was being built. And that was offered to Alley Cat Advocates as a possibility for us to move into. So again, solidifying our partnership by being right on the same campus as Metro Animal Services. So Alley Cat Advocates raised $800,000 to retrofit this older, no longer being used building. And then we were able to open to great fanfare, of course, in February of 2020, so that we can do our own spays and neuters on our own property. We have space for all of our staff as well. And then we also have housing for those very few cats that come to us with a medical problem. Maybe they need a dental or an amputation or something else, diagnostics done to see why they're so skinny and not doing well outside, for example. So now we have space to house those cats as well under the same roof. So the efficiencies of being able to have everything under one roof, and also to have Metro Animal Services literally just cross the parking lot to help support us and us to support them, was really an efficiency that we were really excited to move forward with.
And yeah, if any of the viewers want to see the ribbon cutting, I do have a video on my page of that. You can take a look at that after you finish watching this interview, of course, but that is up, and there's a little bit of a tour. We're going to take another tour here in just a moment, a little bit more in depth than that one was. But before then, let's talk about just a couple more things. So just a little bit, how many, since you started, about how many cats do you think you've helped at this point?
Sure, we're up to just over 55,000 that we've spayed and neutered.
Oh, wow.
Since we started our surgeries in October of 2020. This year, we'll probably max out at just under 6,000 cats. We do surgeries 3 days a week, and our goal is to do 150 a week. There are some weeks that are slower, like this week. Thankfully, everybody's out holiday shopping or hopefully staying warm inside. But our capacity is to do between 50 and 60 cats each of those surgery days, of which we do 3 a week. My mistake there, 3 a week.
And just how big do you think the problem is here in Louisville and Jefferson County? Like, are we talking thousands of cats across the county, or what? I know there's no way to know, but what do you think we're dealing with here?
Well, it's been very interesting to watch the progression as we've moved. When we first started doing our work in 2020, in the year 2000, my mistake, 2000, we were doing very large colonies of cats. There were 20 and 30 in each of these colonies that had grown up with no support and no spay-neuter opportunities. Now in Jefferson County, the people that call us from Jefferson County are bringing us 1 or 2 or 3 cats. They've figured out that we exist, and they've also figured out that spaying or neutering them before there are 20 cats in their backyard is probably a good plan. So when we do venture out to colonies and support those people surrounding our county, in the southern Indiana or even south, Bullitt County, Meade County, Breckinridge County, for example, those colonies tend to still be on the large side. So we'll see colonies that we're helping of 20, 30, and 40 cats. So we have been able to affect really amazing change here in Jefferson County with our concentrated effort here. But as we're able to move out, we hope to affect that same change in surrounding counties.
Nice. Okay. So let's switch gears just a little bit and just kind of talk about strategies a little. So I want to ask you about something I've seen you mention before, and that is building a solid base by developing organizational infrastructure. So what do you mean by that? And, how does that work?
Right, sure. So that we took the first year from 1999 to 2020, the year 2000, my apologies, to really make sure that we had board governance under control, that we had our logo, that we had our newsletter, and all those things that are back office things and aren't really front of mind for those who are doing rescue work. What we wanted to make sure is that we ran our organization as a business. We aren't crazy cat ladies. We may be crazy and we may be cat ladies, but we're not crazy cat ladies. We're really just running a business, and we need for it to thrive and be sustainable. So all those back office things were very important to us, and they continue to be important today. We have what we call a box. We work within our box. And by that, I mean, we don't go out and rescue cats from alleys. We ask the people of the citizenry, the people who are watching out for those cats, to do that work. So again, our box is, we do spay and neuter, and we'll provide the resources for that service, and other rescue type of work, very, very valid, and adoptions. Those are done by other organizations in the community.
Okay. And the other thing I wanted to ask you about is among the rescue community, can you talk about coalition building that goes on amongst your groups and the rescues? How does that work? How do you think that benefits overall?
Right. Well, none of the groups in town can do all of the work themselves, and so it takes work with everybody working together. So there are groups in town that focus on on adoptions. There are groups in town that focus on rescue of cruelty cases. There are groups in town that chase down stray dogs, for example. And it takes everybody to play a role to get the animal welfare in our community up to the standards that we should be focusing on, making sure that the animals that live amongst us are dealt with in humane, caring ways. So our partnerships have largely been with Kentucky Humane Society, and obviously through the partnership we have on being on the same campus with Metro Animal Services. Those are the key players with the large numbers of animals coming to their doors. So we wanted to make sure that we were open and transparent with those organizations about what we're about, what our box is, what we will do and what we won't do. And so over the years, we've really but been successful actually in making sure that those partnerships are sound and solid so that we can do the best work possible.
All right. So I think it's a good time now to maybe take a walk around and
Sure.
Show the viewers what's going on here in the community cat complex.
Sounds great.
So I will follow you around. So we're here by the main entrance, and this is what you see when you come in here.
Yeah, so this is our lobby, and these are the cats that we spayed and neutered yesterday. A very small number of cats, actually. Of course, it's a holiday week. It's cold outside, so there aren't as many cats coming in to reap the benefits of our services. But we certainly think that this type of time of year is a great time to bring cats in. Then you won't have kittens in the springtime if they come in at this point. I'll walk you through one of our exam rooms. This is where the cats are housed overnight as they're recovering from their surgery, and also where they're housed before their surgeries happen. We have a light on in here. There we go. This is our surgery suite. This is where we do those 50 to 60 cats 3 days a week. We spay and neuter basically in a high volume, efficient way. We have volunteers and staff members at their stations doing either sedation or prep. And then this room in here is where our veterinarian works. She's able to do a neuter, a safe, very professional neuter in less than a minute. Oh, wow. And the spays are done in 5 to 6 minutes typically. So the work of getting things moving through the process quickly is through our technicians and our volunteers. So after the cats are sedated and prepped, they do come into this room for their surgeries. When they're done with their surgeries, they come back out to this room. They get their injections such as rabies vaccines, FVRCP, they get pain meds, They get sub-Q fluids in case they might be dehydrated. And they're also on heat so that they wake up really nice and healthy and robust and ready to go back into their traps. We do then watch them as they fully recover in their traps. We like the traps, and the cats do too. We cover them so that the cats aren't trying to get out and thinking that they can get away. And they really actually just relax in those traps. And it's a really nice place for them in that they're elevated a bit off of the ground so that if they do have to defecate or urinate, those bodily fluids will fall through the trap down below so they can stay nice and clean. And then we do feed them in the night after their surgeries. And then the following day, we'll come in and we'll feed them again. And then they go home the day after their surgeries in the evening. So we've been able to check them, of course, through the evening after surgery. We also have staff here the entire day, the day after their surgery, so we can keep a good watch on them before they go back to their outside homes.
When you say most cats are here, probably at most 24 to 48 hours.
Yeah, they come in the night before surgery, and then they go home the night after surgery. So it's a 48-hour turnaround. There's a very small percentage of the cats, less than 1%, that have a medical issue that needs to be addressed. We do spend a lot of money on those cases and a lot of time on them, but for the most part, it's amazing how healthy the cats are that come to us. And that, again, has to do with the small colony size. Someone who's figuring out after one litter of kittens being born that they've got to stop this process will have a healthy mom and healthy kittens coming to us. Unlike those colonies where there's 20 to 30 cats and they're struggling for the food that they need. So we really appreciate those caretakers who are really aggressively seeking us out and getting those cats spayed and neutered before things explode in their neighborhood. So
okay,
you want to walk to the area where we house this very small percentage of cats that need extra care?
Yeah, let's check that out. Are these some of the donors here on the wall?
Yes, those are donors that help support our build out of this building that we're in now.
Very nice.
So we have two groups of cats that I'll show you. One is the cats in the further care needed room, which is very descriptive of what it is. So this is a small group of kitties that had medical issues that we needed to address before we sent them back home. This little guy had some bad diarrhea, and now he's doing just awesome, and he'll get to go home next week. We also have cats that are housed in here that need dental procedures, and we don't polish teeth in that they need to be on a beauty contest or anything, but we will take out bad teeth, those that are rotten or have abscesses. So we do house those cats waiting for their dentals. And sometimes we'll get emaciated old cats in that aren't doing very well outside. And then we will work with our partner, Metro Animal Services, so that those cats don't necessarily have to go back outside only to repeat their emaciation or dehydration situation. But we work very closely with the caretakers with regard to that to make sure that they're on board, to make sure that we're all working together in the best interest of the cats.
This cat here is very photogenic and knows what's going on right now.
Yes, he's a sweetheart.
Playing to the crowd.
Yes, and his person is wanting him back as soon as he's well and able to go back. So next week he'll have a trip back home, all neutered and ready to play outside. And I know that she also has a warm shelter for him, so he'll enjoy his life without populating the neighborhood from here on out.
I don't think we really mentioned, but it's showing up good on camera here, the ear tips.
Yes, the ear tips.
Can you tell us about that real quick?
Sure, ear tips are the universal symbol that a cat's been spayed or neutered. The East Coast does the right ear, the West Coast does the left ear, and we do the left ear, but we could do either ear. And it's just cutting off the top pointed part of one of their ears, in our case, the left ear, so that if the cat should be picked up by another neighbor and brought in to have surgery, we'll be able to tell immediately that it's been spayed or neutered and that we don't have to repeat that surgery. Especially important for the girls. We don't want to have to open them up only to find that their uterus has already been removed. It doesn't hurt the cats. We've never had an infection. It's done when they're sedated, and we call it the badge of honor.
There's adorable cats there.
Yeah. So I'll show you the one room. We'll step outside, and we have a very small number of cats that have proven themselves to have medical conditions that prevent them from going back outside. And these are usually, if they're able to be adopted into an inside home, like some of these that we just saw might be, that's perfectly fine. But in these cases, we have some special needs cats that eventually will probably find their perfect owner, but they are special needs. So we've committed to housing them until we find that special owner. Sometimes I know we had a cat with breast cancer that we identified during the spay-neuter process. And that's an outcome that's not particularly good for that particular cat. But she had a couple more years left of her life, and we didn't want to euthanize her. We didn't want her to go out and suffer either. So we brought her to our facility, and then the cat was able to be placed actually with a person who is a human breast cancer survivor. So that's the kind of story that we look for these cats. Let me show you the catio. A little chilly out here, so we won't spend long. But this is the area where those cats live. We keep the numbers to 10 to 15 cats total. We're not interested in hoarding. They have an ability to be inside through the cat door, and then they can also lounge outside in the sun, as some of them are doing now. So this is the area where we will adopt out as special needs any of these cats. The black one with the white right there, he has a food allergy. If he eats anything other than rabbit food, actually, is his protein of choice. He gets very, very red in the eyes, and all of his membranes just explode with an allergic reaction. So he's sunning himself on this cold day. These guys, again, have the opportunity to run inside, and that's where they get fed and monitored twice a day. Everybody gets fed high quality food, whatever quality food they need for their particular medical condition.
I'm going to get a couple shots here from the side.
Sure.
And you all can see some of the planks here that run up and down, where the cats can go up and down and get some height off the ground. Kind of feel like they're on top of things. Oh, hey, buddy. You can see the ear tip there as well. Some of these cats are definitely photogenic and want to show off for the camera. See another kitty right there. All right. That was the catio.
We have one other area I can show you. It's what we call the kitten nursery. We don't have any moms and kittens right now, but we do bring in mom cats with their litters of kittens, and we can spay mom while she's nursing, and she will continue to nurse. So that's what this little area is here. Right now we have adults in it, but normally we'll have a mom and her litter of kittens. The mom will go get spayed, and while the mom's getting spayed, we'll have volunteers and staff bottle feed the babies and give them their first shots if they're old enough, make sure they're dewormed and defleed. And then babies will go back home with mom until they're of age to be spayed or neutered. And we will reach back to those caretakers if we haven't heard from them and make sure that we can circle back and get those kittens spayed or neutered so that the situation doesn't repeat itself. So again, right now we have adults, but often in the spring and summer, through the summer, we'll have moms and kittens in here. Okay.
This is an amazing facility you have going on here.
Thank you. We're very proud of it. We're now at the point where we're efficient and effective, and now we're thinking about next steps, and we're contemplating what we do next. But right now, we can just rest very happily and contentedly that these cats are getting the best care that we can possibly provide. And it's really due to the citizens of the community calling us. As I say, the phone rings off the hook, but it's not the cats that are calling us. It's the awesome people in the community. We get about 8,000 calls a year for service. And it's because those people are willing to call us, and they're doing their own trapping. For the most part, we don't trap for people. If they're able-bodied and they have transportation, we can show them how to do the work themselves, and then they can be the heroes. And then we can leave our resources for those people who aren't able-bodied or don't have transportation. And those are the people that will help with the trapping. So it's really, truly a partnership. We'll make sure that we have the resources to do this work if the community can step up and call us and bring the cats to us and take them back home.
All right. Is there anything we've missed today that you'd like to mention?
I don't think so. It's
Okay.
very, very awesome to be on your show today. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
All right. So last thing here is just kind of let people know how they can follow Alley Cat Advocates online, get more information, how they can donate. What kind of donations do you need?
Sure.
Just let people know.
Absolutely. So we're always looking for volunteers, and you can check out our volunteer orientation schedule on our website, which is alleycatadvocates.org. We have orientations once a month, so that would be delightful for people who are interested in helping. We also obviously need money. We do at this point have a really strong staff of 10 people, and we're always looking for funds to help support them in the work that we're doing as a team, but also to pay for the food and the medications that these cats need. The dentals are particularly expensive, so we can always use funding for that. And then also on our website is a wish list, where if you're interested in purchasing things through Amazon, particularly Amazon Smile, there's a wish list on our website under ways to give that you can drop right into Amazon Smile and purchase all kinds of things, from paper towels to food for the kitties. We appreciate that very much. I can't think of anything else. Other questions?
Can people like drop off cat food, cat litter, anything like that?
Yes, absolutely. We're best staffed for that on Fridays and Saturdays, early afternoon. We have a crew of volunteers here both of those days. So anything that you might pick up at a pet food store, we absolutely would take. We love people who support us in that way as well. So, and we do have a Facebook page as Alley Cat Advocates, and we would welcome your joining us, following us as friends, and that we give updates. Only post twice a day, so we won't inundate you, but we also spotlight special needs cats that may need a dental or an amputation or some other special care on that page. And we also highlight other work that we're doing in the community.
Okay, and do you have a website as well?
Yes, it's www.alleycatadvocates.org.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Karen. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us today and give us this great tour of this amazing facility. Thanks for the work you do in the community. And, you know, anybody watching this, make sure you're sharing this out. And if you want to get involved, check out the website. Maybe you can volunteer. So with that, we'll just kind of wrap things up here with my mini button presses again. I really just don't know why it takes so many buttons to flip a video around, but here we go. Thanks for joining me. You know, share this out. I am totally nonprofit, so you can help, you know, by helping the algorithms, which means liking, commenting, sharing. Anybody you think would be interested in this kind of content in this particular video, you know, send that out. Otherwise, again, here in just a little bit over an hour, 1 o'clock, I will have Corey Arthur on. So look for that. Join me again then, and have a show coming up again tomorrow too. So look out for that as well. Again, thanks to you all. Can't do this without you all watching. I'm here for you all. So again, just remember, always think critically.